Hello everyone and welcome back to English with Lucy. Today I am going to teach you how to use the articles a, an and the correctly. I am going to show you the 9 rules for using these articles. This includes when you should use them, when you shouldn't use them, and very importantly, the pronunciation. I know a lot of my students struggle with the pronunciation of these articles. We will discuss when to use a and when to use a, when to use an and when to use an, and when to say the and when to say the. This can be very confusing for my students, so I'm happy to clarify this for you. This lesson will really help you with your grammar and your pronunciation, but if you'd like to improve your grammar and your pronunciation skills even further, then I highly recommend the special method of reading a book whilst listening to the audiobook version at the same time. This can really help you, so let me explain. Take a book that you have already read in English, or a book that you would like to read in English, and read it again whilst listening to the audiobook version from Audible. I've got some great book recommendations for all levels down below in the description box. Reading alone will not help you with your pronunciation. The way a word is spelt or written in English doesn't necessarily tell you how to pronounce it in English. But if you listen to a word as you read it, your brain will start making connections. And the next time you read that word, you'll know how it's pronounced. And the next time you hear that word, you'll know how it's spelt. This is such an effective method. And the best part is you can get one free audiobook. That's a 30-day free trial on Audible. All you have to do is click on the link in the description box and sign up. Then you can download one of my many recommendations. Give it a try, it really works. Right, let's get on with the lesson. Rule number 1, the pronunciation of a and an. I believe that you should prioritise pronunciation over grammar at the beginning. This is because it is fairly easy to unlearn bad grammar habits, but it's very, very difficult to correct bad pronunciation habits. You should learn good pronunciation from the very beginning. This is something that I think many teachers miss. A, an and the may seem like very simple words, but you would be amazed at how many mistakes are made with these words. Let's talk about a first. In British English, the standard, most common pronunciation of a is a. This is the schwa sound. Practice with me. Watch my mouth shape. It's quite a short sound and it's a push of air, a push of voice. My mouth is open but my muscles are relaxed. A bed, a cat, a dog. You will also hear us occasionally say a. My mouth starts like this, and it changes into the e sound, a. So we have 2 options, a or a. So we know that a is the standard, most common form. So when do we use a? A is the strong form of the article. We use a when we are stressing or emphasizing something. Look at the difference between a and a in context. I might ask for a drink by saying, "Could I have a drink?" Could I have a drink? But I'm given 2 drinks. So I might say, I asked for a drink. I asked for a drink. I am emphasizing that I wanted 1 drink, a drink, not two drinks. A is used for emphasis. There is also another possibility that you might not read in the grammar books, but I think it's important for you to understand it. You might hear us say a when we are contemplating or thinking about what we are going to say next. For example, I think I'll have a coffee. It doesn't sound as nice to go, I think I'll have a coffee. Listen to native speakers and see if you can notice if they say a when thinking of what to say next in place of a. Now, I've been talking about British English, but what about American English? In American English, a is more commonly used, but it can be regional. You will probably hear both a and a used, but a might be more common. Now, these are not strict rules. You will hear people using a and a as they please, especially if it helps in the flow of their conversation. This is all the same for an and un. In British English, we are much more likely to say un. That's the same sound with n after it, un. This is a weak, unstressed form because un tends to be an unstressed word. However, if we do want to emphasize the article, then we might say an. An. We might also say an if we want to elongate the article for contemplation, as we did with a. The same for an. An. I would like an ice cream. I'd like an ice cream. I would like an. This isn't as common. In American English, an is more commonly used. Rule number 2. This refers to the pronunciation of the. Should it be the or should it be the? I have so many students ask me about this. My inbox is full. Normally, in general, we say the. The. It's the th sound with the schwa. The. The. However, when the article comes before a vowel sound, we say the. The. That's the th sound. That's the th sound with the e sound. The bag. The bag. The cat. The cat. The hand. The hand. The maid. The maid. But if a vowel sound follows, the apple. The apple. The only. The only. The end. The end. The Uber. The Uber. Now, can you notice that I am inserting a y sound in between the and the following word that begins with a vowel sound? This is called intrusion, and you can learn more about it in my connected speech video that will really help you with your pronunciation and your fluency. It's important to remember that we say the before a word that starts with a vowel sound, not just a vowel letter. For example, university. Its first letter is a vowel, but its first sound is not a vowel sound. University. The first sound is the y sound. So we say the university. The university. The same for the universe. The universe. We also use the when we want to emphasize something. It doesn't matter what sound the following word begins with. If we want to emphasize it, then we can say the. For example, if somebody told me that they met the Queen yesterday, I might say, "What? You met the Queen?" I am emphasizing the Queen. Let's move on to rule number 3. Use a before consonant sounds and an before vowel sounds. Let's take a look at when to use a. We use a or a before words that begin with a consonant sound. A hand, a man, a brother, a sister, a big dog. We use an before words that begin with a vowel sound. For example, an apple, an elephant, an excellent idea, an event. This actually makes it easier for you to say. A event, a apple is quite hard in my opinion. Now let's move on to rule number 4. Use a and an with countable singular nouns only. Countable nouns are nouns which have both a singular and a plural form. They can be counted. 1 bag, 200 cats. Uncountable nouns cannot be counted. Here are some examples of a and an with countable nouns. A sunset, an open door, an amazing play, a whole, a university degree. I'm using a instead of un because although university is spelt with a vowel sound, it doesn't start with a vowel sound. A university degree, a euro, an MSc. I'm saying an MSc because the letter M is pronounced M, clearly, but it begins with a vowel sound. Here are some examples of uncountable nouns, nouns which can't be counted. Water, salt, tea, anger, love, darkness. I can't say I have 4 angers. It's uncountable. It can't be counted. You can say I'd like 2 waters or 3 coffees. This is because I am implying that I would like 2 glasses of water or 2 cups of coffee. I'm talking about the units. So a and n can be used with singular, countable nouns only. Singular because we can only use a and n to talk about one thing or person at a time. The, however, can be used with all kinds of nouns. The anger, the whole, the European Union, the end. Let's move on to rule number 5. Use a or an to talk about something that is unknown to your listener. Use the to talk about something that is known to your listener. This might sound quite complicated, but I'm sure I can make you understand it. Listen to this example. I have a dog and a cat. The dog is golden and the cat is ginger. I say a dog and a cat in the first sentence because that is the first time that I'm mentioning them to my listener. They are unknown to my listener. In the second sentence, I say the dog and the cat because they are already known to my listener. The listener knows which dog and which cat I'm talking about. A and an are called indefinite articles because they refer to something that the listener doesn't know about. The is called a definite article because it refers to something that the listener does know about. Let's take a look at another example. I bought new hat last year. Hat was red. It should be, I bought a new hat last year. The hat was red. This was fairly easy because I was only talking about one hat. But what if I want to talk about more than one hat or more than one object or person? If I wanted to talk about more than one hat or a specific number of hats, then I wouldn't be able to use a or an. For example, I bought some new hats last year, or I bought 3 new hats last year. The second sentence, the hats were red. I say 3 hats or some if I don't want to specifically mention the amount of hats. The is used because you know which hats I'm talking about. In these examples, we have used a, an, or some in the first sentence. In the second sentence, we have used the because our listener knows what we're talking about. But we don't always have to do this. Sometimes our listener will automatically understand what we're referring to, so we can just use the. For example, can I use the toilet? Can you shut the door? You know which toilet or which door I'm talking about when I say this. The door might be in the room. The toilet might be the only one in the building or the nearest one. Another example, the woman with the blonde hair is my mother. I say the woman first, but then I give information to identify her, so you know exactly which woman it is. Let's move on to rule number 6. Use a or an to talk about things that aren't specific. For example, do you have an eraser? I'm talking about any eraser. But if I say, do you have the eraser I gave you last week? Then I'm talking about one specific eraser. Or, I want to go on a cruise. I don't mind which cruise, I'm just talking about any cruise. It's non-specific. However, if I'm talking about a specific cruise that I saw advertised, I would say, I want to go on the cruise we saw advertised. So, a and an for being non-specific and the for being specific. Let's move on to rule number 7. Use a and an to talk about the category, type, or profession of something or someone. Here are 5 simple examples. Elaine is a feminist. That is how she defines herself. It's her category, I guess. I am a teacher. It's my profession, a teacher. I hear a lot of students say, I am teacher. I am scientist. I work as teacher. I work as scientist. It's always a teacher, a scientist. I know in other languages this is different, but in English, remember, we use a and an when we're talking about category, type, or profession. He is an engineer. Our tractor is a John Deere. That's its type or its make, its category. He is an attractive man. Now let's talk about rule number 8. If you want to talk in general using plurals or uncountable nouns, don't use an article. For example, leather belts are expensive. When I don't use an article, I'm talking about leather belts in general. If I say the leather belts are expensive, I'm talking about a particular kind or brand of leather belts. Another example, do you like gin? Gin is an uncountable noun. I'm asking you if you like gin in general. I'm not asking you if you like this particular brand of gin. If I wanted to ask that, I would say, do you like the gin? Another one, knowledge is a blessing. I'm talking about knowledge in general. Now, let's move on to rule number 9. This is a big one. It's going to be hard to complete in just one lesson, but I'll try my best. Rule number 9 is know when to not use an article. Many of my students struggle with knowing when not to use an article, And there are some rules, there are also many exceptions. I'm going to talk to you about quite a few important rules, and I'll also try to insert the many exceptions. Firstly, in general, we don't use articles with proper nouns. For example, first names: Lucy, William, Gwen, Mohammed. I'm sorry if I didn't say Gwen correctly. I really wanted to include it because I know a lot of my students have that name. Help me with my pronunciation if I didn't do that correctly. Holidays, for example, Christmas, Easter, Mother's Day. We wouldn't say the Christmas, the Easter, or the Easter. When talking about geography, articles are generally not used, but there are quite a few exceptions. But in general, we don't use articles for countries like Canada or England, for states or counties like California or Bedfordshire, for cities like London or Mumbai, for towns like Ubud or Luton, for continents like Africa or Europe, for single lakes like Lake Ontario or Lake Tahoe, and for single mountains like Mount Everest or Mount Fuji. There are exceptions. Put them down below in the comments section. We also don't use articles for sports. For example, running, football, badminton, tennis, gymnastics. I don't say I play the football, I say I play football. Languages: English, Spanish, Urdu, Arabic. I don't learn the Arabic, I learn Arabic. For universities: Harvard, Cambridge, Westminster Business School, that's where I went. However, if the university name begins with the word university, then we do use the University of York, the University of Reading. We also don't use articles for places, locations or streets. For example, home, work, school, Main Street. The British equivalent of Main Street, High Street, we do use an article with. The High Street, what is on the High Street? There are many exceptions as well. We say the bank, the cinema, the hospital, the dentist, the doctors, the post office. We don't use articles for a noun plus a number. For example, platform 9 3/4 or room 101. And finally, acronyms. In general, we don't use articles with acronyms, for example, NASA, NATO. However, if the letters are pronounced individually in the acronym, then we do use an article. The UN, the EU, the US. But the is not used before university acronyms, as in UCLA and MIT. Oh my God, are you okay after all of that information? Thank you so much for participating in my lesson. I love having you as my students. Don't forget to check out Audible. You can sign up by clicking the link in the description box and claim your free audiobook. And don't forget to connect with me on all of my social media. I've got my Facebook, my Instagram and my Twitter. And I shall see you soon for another lesson. Mwah.